There are times when certain behaviors feel like the only way out, an escape from emotions too overwhelming to face. At first, they seem harmless, a quick distraction or a moment of relief, but slowly, without even realizing it, these behaviors take root, turning into habits that dictate actions. What was once a choice becomes a compulsion, a cycle that feels impossible to break. The mind justifies it, saying, "Just this once," or "I need this right now," but deep down, something feels off. The question is, why? Why do people continue to engage in behaviors they know are harmful? The answer is rarely simple. More often than not, these patterns stem from an invisible pain, a wound that lingers beneath the surface, unspoken yet deeply felt. The habit isn't just about seeking comfort, it's a subconscious attempt to fill a void, to reconnect with something lost or never found. Although addiction is often seen as self-destruction, it is, at its core, a hidden search for meaning, an unconscious effort to heal an invisible pain that may not even be fully recognized. Have you ever wondered why some individuals spiral into addiction while others seem to resist its pull? Addiction isn't just about physical dependency or lack of willpower. It is one of the most intricate and deeply rooted struggles of the human psyche, manifesting in many forms, from substance abuse to obsessive patterns of behavior. These behaviors are often misunderstood as simple indulgences, but they are actually symptoms of something far deeper. The need to escape reality isn't just about avoiding pain, it's about seeking an experience that temporarily fills the gaps left by emotional wounds, existential emptiness, or suppressed aspects of the self. But is addiction purely a result of external circumstances, or is there an unseen force that keeps people trapped in these cycles? Exploring addiction through the perspectives of Carl Jung and Gabor Mate sheds light on its true nature and why breaking free can seem nearly impossible. Their insights reveal that addiction isn't just a response to difficult circumstances, but a reflection of unresolved inner conflicts. Carl Jung believed that addiction wasn't a failure of character or self-control, but rather a sign of a fragmented psyche, an imbalance within the human spirit. He saw addictive behaviors as misguided attempts to cope with suffering, a desperate search for wholeness that only deepens the wounds. Jung suggested that addiction stems from a lack of integration, where parts of the self remain unacknowledged, causing an inner void that demands to be filled. This can arise from emotional disconnection, suppressed trauma, or a missing sense of purpose. From Jung's perspective, addiction is a form of unconscious escapism. When life becomes unbearable, the mind seeks an outlet, whether through substances, compulsions, or distractions, to numb the distress. But no matter how powerful the escape, reality always returns, often harsher than before. The cycle continues, not because the individual enjoys suffering, but because they have not yet found a deeper resolution. Addiction isn't simply about what is being consumed, it's about what is missing. If true healing is to happen, the focus must shift from battling addiction itself to addressing the deeper wounds that gave rise to it in the first place. The real question is, how do we shift from suppression to healing? If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect. What are you truly seeking beneath your habits? The first step to breaking free is awareness. Dare to look beyond the behavior and into the need that drives it. In his book In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, Gabor Mate reveals a hard truth. False needs can never truly satisfy us. No matter how many times we chase after relief, it never lasts. It's like drinking salt water to quench thirst. The more we consume, the emptier we feel. The mind remains trapped in a cycle, always searching for the next fix, whether it's a substance, validation, or a temporary distraction. Mate defines addiction as any repeated behavior, whether involving substances or not, that a person continues despite its harmful impact. While drug addiction is widely recognized, behavioral addictions are just as powerful. The compulsive use of social media, pornography, video games, gambling, shopping, sex, excessive exercise, or work can all become ways to escape reality. The key difference between a passion and an addiction is control. Are you choosing it, or is it choosing you? So ask yourself, who is really in control? You or the behavior? A healthy passion brings fulfillment, but addiction keeps you trapped in a loop, making you feel like you need it to function. If you're unsure, here's a simple test. Given the harm it causes, can you stop? If the answer is no, Or if you keep making promises to yourself that you can't keep, then the behavior has taken over. The real problem isn't just the addiction itself, but the reason behind it. What pain is it trying to mask? The debate on addiction's cause is ongoing. Some believe it's a personal flaw, but Mattei offers a different perspective. Addiction isn't about weakness, it's about wounds. It's a coping mechanism, an unconscious attempt to change how we feel inside. When someone regularly turns to an external source to escape their emotions, addiction takes hold. But here's the painful irony. Addiction promises relief, but deepens the suffering. The more we rely on it, the more the void grows. It's no surprise that so many people turn to addictions, whether substances, distractions, or compulsive behaviors. We live in a world that encourages numbing over healing. Pain from childhood trauma, emotional neglect, or everyday stress pushes people toward quick fixes, and they work for a while. That's why breaking free isn't about willpower alone. It's about understanding the deeper pain we're trying to escape. Mate once asked an addict why they use drugs, and the response was raw: to not feel the feelings I feel when I don't use. That's the real struggle. It's not about seeking pleasure, it's about avoiding pain. Even seemingly harmless habits, like overworking or scrolling endlessly on social media, serve the same purpose. They distract us from what we don't want to face. William James, a psychologist from the early 20th century, described how alcohol doesn't just relieve stress, it temporarily creates a sense of meaning. He believed that addiction's power comes from its ability to make life feel more bearable, even spiritual, if only for a moment. But every high has a cost. The deeper truth? Addictions don't just distract us from pain, they keep us from ever truly healing. So what are you really searching for? If this resonates with you, it's time to break the cycle. Not just by stopping the habit, but by facing the pain that feeds it. Type, I choose awareness. If you're ready to reclaim your power and stop running from what truly needs healing. Those fleeting highs, the moments where everything feels right, are the bait that addiction dangles before us. In the beginning, it seems like an escape, a shortcut to relief, a way to silence the chaos inside, but addiction never delivers what it promises. What starts as a temporary fix soon demands more, tightening its grip until it becomes the center of life itself. The pleasure fades, but the craving remains. The more we indulge, the higher the cost. Slowly, what once brought comfort turns into a prison. Health declines, relationships suffer, dreams are abandoned, and the mind becomes consumed with one thing: feeding the addiction. Over time, the ability to feel joy without it disappears, leaving only a desperate chase for a satisfaction that never lasts. Beyond the emotional toll, addiction physically alters the brain, making it harder to break free. It creates a phenomenon known as brain lock, where part of you watches helplessly as you engage in self-destructive behavior, fully aware of the harm but unable to resist. It's like being trapped inside your own body, knowing what you should do, but feeling powerless to do it. This internal war is one of the most painful aspects of addiction, a constant battle between the craving and the truth, between momentary relief and long-term suffering. With addiction's grip so strong, the question becomes, is recovery even possible? The challenge is that addiction damages the very thing that must heal, the brain itself. Gabor Mate explains that the deeper the addiction, the greater the neurological disruption, making breaking free seem impossible. But here's the truth: it isn't. The brain, even after years of dependency, has an extraordinary ability to rewire itself. Healing is possible, but it requires more than just willpower. It demands a shift in awareness. This is where nodal consciousness comes in, a deep awareness that disrupts the cycle of addiction. Instead of being caught between craving and regret, this level of consciousness allows a person to fully experience life without being controlled by impulses. Carl Jung believed that overcoming addiction begins with self-awareness. Without recognizing the subconscious patterns driving our behavior, we remain prisoners of our own minds, repeating the same cycles while wondering why nothing changes. True healing starts when we stop running and turn inward, not with judgment, but with curiosity and understanding. The first step is acknowledgement. Many remain trapped in addiction because they refuse to confront the deeper truth. Addiction isn't the real problem, it's the symptom of something deeper. People justify their habits, make excuses, and avoid asking the most important question: what am I really running from? But the moment you see addiction for what it is, not a source of relief but a barrier to true healing, the process of transformation begins. At some point, the individual must turn inward and reflect on the deeper aspects of their life that led them to addiction. Without reflection, it's impossible to uncover the real causes driving self-destructive behaviors. Carl Jung described the human psyche as a vast layered realm filled with hidden symbols, fears, and unresolved wounds. Addiction, according to Jung, is not just a bad habit, it's a symbolic manifestation of something much deeper, an unconscious attempt to cope with suffering and internal shadows. When a person finally begins to question their vice, they are not simply trying to quit a behavior, they are stepping onto the path of individuation, the process of integrating all parts of the self, both light and dark, into a complete and authentic whole. This means confronting the repressed emotions, unhealed wounds, and neglected truths that have been buried for years. It's not an easy journey, but it's the only path to true freedom. Through reflection, patterns begin to emerge. An alcoholic may realize that drinking was never just about the alcohol, it was about escaping loneliness or masking a lack of purpose. Someone addicted to work may recognize that their overachievement was a way to avoid feelings of inadequacy. In these cases, addiction isn't the real issue, it's a symptom. The substance, behavior, or distraction is only a temporary shield against emotional suffering. Once this is recognized, healing can begin. Instead of reaching for the addiction, the person can start addressing the real need, whether it's connection, purpose, or self-acceptance. One of the biggest misconceptions about addiction is that it's simply a matter of weak willpower. In reality, addiction is not a failure of strength. It's a sign that something much deeper is unresolved. While personal responsibility plays a role, true healing isn't just about fighting against cravings. It's about creating an environment, both internally and externally, that nurtures recovery. This is why social support is so crucial. Addiction isolates, but connection heals. No one overcomes addiction alone. A strong community, whether through friends, family, support groups, or therapy, reminds a person that they are not alone in their struggle. The path to recovery isn't just an internal fight. It's also about repairing relationships, rebuilding trust, and finding belonging in a world that once seemed empty. The key to breaking free lies in developing compassionate self-awareness. Addiction tricks the mind into believing it offers relief, but in reality, it only deepens suffering. The first step toward true healing is recognizing that addiction is a coping mechanism, not a solution. With greater awareness, the cycle of destruction can be replaced with understanding and self-care. Instead of judging themselves harshly, individuals must learn patience. Healing is not a straight path, and setbacks are part of the process. But every moment of awareness, every small realization, and every conscious choice away from addiction is a step toward true freedom. Overcoming addiction isn't just about quitting a substance or behavior. It's about rebuilding a life rooted in authenticity. It's about integrating the hidden, repressed, and painful aspects of the self rather than avoiding them. It's about learning to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. The real transformation happens not when addiction is defeated, but when the individual embraces all parts of themselves, both the light and the dark, to create a life of deeper meaning, resilience, and self-acceptance.